Greetings, mortals. Today's topic will be touching on the previous topics known as profit and resource redistribution. Also, we will be touching on competition a little bit, okay? I don't know what to call today's topic, but it's basic system optimization. So, let's begin with a simple system simulation. Let's take a three-chain production system, like, for example, let's say bread production, right? We will simplify it into 3 steps for the simplicity's sake, obviously, so it's easier to understand. Let's say grain production, right? There's farmers, okay? And then you have, let's say, bread producers, right? Then you have distribution. 3 steps. So farmers, right? Simple. Now, in your current system, there's an infinite amount of competitors in this system, right? You have a bunch of these fighting to survive. In other words, fighting against one another to please this guy, right? This guy chooses out of an infinite amount of these, and of course there's infinite amount of these as well. So naturally, this system, right, gets complicated real quick because it goes like this every step of the way. It is what you call competitive environment or basic capitalism, right? Every single one of these are trying to survive and fighting against every single one of these in order to be able to please the higher level, okay? What this makes it is inefficiency. In order to manage any one of these, right, you have to go through all of this chain. For example, if you want to change something in this level, you have to make sure that these and these won't break if you do so. In other words, making change in your system is extremely complicated. Even if you make a change, like by releasing a law of a sort, right? These are not, for example, not necessarily going to uphold that law. You can create inspections, right, to manage so that they, keep up the lawful ways, right? But nothing is stopping them from not keeping to the book, right? Since there are so many of them, you won't be able to check all of them, and even if you can, they can just pay off the low-paid wage workers and all that other stuff, right? There's so much inefficiency in the system that I can't even begin. Basically, whenever you have to manage this many links, you are simply stuck because you can't realistically manage your system because your system is made out of infinite amount of strands, right? I will leave the actual inefficiencies for the influencers to cover so that they have something to do. But idea is this: since you have infinite amount of these, right, and every single one of these are an individual, right? Let's say above this chain there sits a guy that takes all of the profit from all of this system, right? Lowest workers get nothing. All of their profit is taken away by this individual. Every single one of these has one of these, right? So your resources get accumulated into fewer hands, okay? Then on top of that, every single one of these has all of those millionaires and all that stuff, right? So they get accumulated into even less hands because they rob not only these, right, but also these. your system works like that, right? One person gets profit from a lot of people, and they at some point they don't even know what to do with it, so they just stash it in the back, and waste it by not using it. In other words, stagnate the system. And the more of these you have, obviously we have covered the competition, right? They fight one another with your life, which is your resources that they have taken upon themselves to keep, right? This resource redistribution is extremely toxic to the society because, naturally the lowest individuals get left with nothing, and the few are left with so much they don't know what to do with it. But I mean, in your competitive environment, they are forced to be these parasitic, I guess, organizers, you might say, because, it's survival of the fittest, and robbing others is the name of the game. However, I'm not gonna even bother explaining every single inefficiency in these systems, Instead, I will give you an example of how a proper unified world deals with this problem, or a management style which is superior to whatever this is. Capitalism is just disgusting every which way you look. But yeah, so imagine a system where a government runs your organizations, right? For example, let's say grain production or farmers, right? We take all of the farmers, right, and we put them into the unified company. In other words, we standardize all of their practices, okay, and make sure that none of them are left to starve. In other words, you create an organization that they work for. By doing so, you make sure that they are no longer competing with one another and sharing ideas and reducing inefficiencies together. This will obviously eliminate marketing, which is extremely profitable. I mean, 100% profitable. If you don't have marketing, that means 100% profit. Marketing is just toxic altogether, right? No more competition, no more fighting with one another, no more inefficiencies. Now, since you learned how to work together, right, you can do this with every aspect of your organization. And now you get a slipstream, which goes straight into your government and is easy to manage because you don't have an infinite amount of strains, right? You have a single strain, right? This is very simple because you can create a change here and suddenly it changes instantly. You can, on top of that, create standardized factories, for example, right? You can standardize everything, and by doing so, you will reduce inefficiencies even further. And I could be, naming these things forever probably, but the idea is this. Once you can have a system that is linear and simple to read, right? you can see how your system is working. You can track their financial expenditures and all that. You can create a financial map that is easily manageable and has no corruption because your government now owns all of the things, right? And it dictates what happens. So your government is no longer working for these parasites, right? Oh, I'm sorry, these are too low to be parasites, but I mean money. They're no longer selling out, right, for the money. They're actually optimizing a system like they're supposed to be. No longer do you need laws, infinite amount of those to, manage your entire system. You only need one law, which is don't hurt others. And naturally, whenever you find something that hurts others, right, you eliminate it out of your system. That's that. You don't need to write a law about it. You don't need to wait a million years until it gets passed and confirmed and whatever. You just find inefficiencies and you just eliminate them. Easy peasy, right? On top of that, of course, the 50-50 rule applies. So whenever, I haven't talked about it, I think, yet. But basically, whenever you create profit, I mean true profit, not finance redistribution, right? You create, you put that profit, half of it, right, goes straight into the government, half you keep. It is completely fair, but I could I could make another video on it if you are not aware of how completely fair that is. Of course, when I say this, obviously no more tax evasion, right? No more abusive marketing, parasitic schemes and scamming and all that. No more pressure on those underneath, right, to sell you cheaper, right? Because your government now knows how much everything costs. On top of that, of course, I've given you an ability to count, so it will be even easier to do than before, right? But even if you didn't have energy credits, you still would be, much better off with this. I don't know, maybe I'm probably forgetting something as usual, but this should be sufficient for now for you to understand that the system should be simplified in order for you to understand and be able to manage it. Vision is the key to, functional society, and this creates resistance in every step of the way, which stagnates your system and stops it, right, from doing something. Of course, in other videos, I will cover the resource accumulation solution so that the rich can stay rich and not stagnate the system with their wealth that they are not using, right? I suppose that should be sufficient. I could probably talk all day, but my camera can't handle it. Well, it's not my camera, it's borrowed camera, whatever. Okay, see you later.